Well, thank you all for coming out. I appreciate it. This is going to be kind of a pretty informal Q&A style talk or a seminar, if you call it that. I almost thought about not even saying the word seminar. It sounds a little too professional. But my real goal is to provide value in any way I can, answer any questions you've got about your own nutrition or what you've struggled with in the past. Or somebody you know that's struggled. Maybe you've got a family member, a friend that's struggled with different things or wants to dial something in. So hopefully I can help with that. Just to give you a little background on me and what I've been doing, what I've gone through is, I've kind of had an unhealthy relationship with food my whole life. And going back to where in college I would pretty much starve myself because I thought I had to look a certain way, and I've always grown up in that atmosphere with a single parent, single mom who struggled with weight her whole life, and so I got to see it firsthand. She's gone through all the diets that you can imagine, done all the different things, lost and gained the same 40 pounds over and over again, and it never works, and it's always just based around starvation diets that don't seem to be maintainable. So I've gotten to witness it, and unfortunately it's led to where I've had body image issues my whole life, which is weird for a male to say that, because generally you think that's more of a thing that females outwardly say. But going back to college, I can remember sitting in my dorm room just starving every night, just not eating. Not to the point of what you would consider an anorexia, type of disorder, but very, very unhealthy relationship around food. I labeled foods as bad and good. We'll talk about that later. If I ate something that I labeled as bad, I felt guilty. Okay, I would judge people for eating foods that I deemed to be not good, and so that just leads down a long road of unhealthy thoughts. And that didn't help that I grew up, and some of us grew up and lived through all the periods of junk science, and not even necessarily junk science, but science that just wasn't accurate. Anybody remember Snackwell's cookies?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, non-fat, right? It's good for you, non-fat. So unfortunately, in the 90s, fats got villainized. All of a sudden, fats weren't good. Poor Dr. Atkins, God bless him, was the carbs were now the devil. So that's probably the more prevailing thought or mind thought that I see with people today, is they assume carbs are bad, just because we went through that whole Atkins craze where you weren't supposed to eat carbs. And so it's created a lot of different mindsets with people throughout the years on what they should be eating, what's bad, what's good, and that sort of thing. So my big thing is just to kind of answer questions you've got, and talk to you about, what should we be doing? How does it apply? You can have all the knowledge, and I don't have all the knowledge, but you can have all the knowledge you want, and if you don't know how to apply it to the situation or the individual, it's useless. Okay, so what that means is everybody's going to be different. All right, the diet that Elizabeth uses could be completely different than the application that Steve uses. It's just, what is their lifestyle like? What are their genetics like? What have they been doing for the last 20 years with their food? That's why I really am not a fan of the whole templated approach. Okay, and I gave any of you familiar with the whole template deal, where you get a certain number of carbs, fat, protein, or you have a certain number of meals? And
is that the zone you mean?
Not the zone, but it's you ever heard of Renaissance periodization, RP?
Yeah.
Okay. So how tall are you?
5'11".
So if there's a guy in China that happens to be 5'11", weighs the same as you, and is the same age as Mike Garrison, he is going to purchase and get the same exact diet that Mike Garrison gets. That's the templated approach. It goes by height, weight, and age. Okay? He's all the way across the world. He's got completely different genetics, family, lifestyle. he doesn't do CrossFit, you know, maybe he does yoga, that's it, and he's going to get the exact same diet. Doesn't sound good, right?
I don't know if you can buy the same diet.
So we'll talk about that approach and kind of what approach you should be using or what approach works best. But first, let's go around the room. I want you to say your name and what you want to learn today, what you want to know. Okay, it could be one thing, it could be 6 things, but let's start over here with Elizabeth. And oops, I gave it away. Sorry. And tell me what you want to know.
I'm Elizabeth, and I think I've talked to Ryan some about what to eat before and after
Ooh, yeah.
workouts, but maybe balancing that out outside of the before and after workouts. Does that
Okay.
make any sense?
So you're interested in pre-workout nutrition, post-workout?
Well, I did that with you, and so I'm
Okay.
got that down, like and now what to eat outside of that, because
Okay.
you've told me what your body breaks down better for a pre-workout, and so I guess how to get the right nutrition outside of
Okay.
the yogurt or something, an oatmeal before the workout.
Okay. So nutrition outside of workout window. All right, got it.
I'm Kristen, and kind of to piggyback off of Elizabeth, I just got off of doing Weight Watchers,
Okay.
which was good, and it helped me get the 10 pounds off fast, but that was not sustainable. So I'm looking just to learn to see what is sustainable with the workouts.
Gotcha. Yeah, sustainability.
Without a ton of deprivation either.
Right.
Or the starving aspect, you know.
Yeah.
Feeling, oh, that's bad food, I can't eat it.
Exactly.
Cranky.
Yeah.
I'm Lindsay.
I'd go with timing
Timing.
yeah.
Food timing in general.
Keith,
Keith is in the house.
and that is basically mine too.
Timing.
Like when versus like macros, you know, when should you be putting your carbohydrates in? When should you?
Yeah. Sure.
I'm Jocelyn. Been eating low carb probably for about a year, so just interested in your thoughts. on
Okay.
that.
All right, big man.
So Mike, proud member of Unify. Never been in this place before, Mike.
Hey, it's unified now. Unified.
I've just come off a year of doing basically ketogenic diet.
Okay.
I lost a lot of weight, but I haven't felt great, and I've been bringing some carbohydrates back in, and actually this is the first like 6 days in a row I've slept through the night. Year. Some other things are better, but I'm having a really hard time post-workout not having a massive just crash of energy. And I feel like for yesterday, had a great session. Wall balls number 3 on the most hated list.
Wall balls.
What a terrible thing. You were there. But like I had a perfect bar afterwards, and that was okay for about a half an hour, and then I really didn't eat much after that, right? And I felt pretty flat and like bad
Yeah.
up until I had dinner. Once I had dinner, it felt really great. So I'm just trying to figure out how I can, while getting back into CrossFit, how I can maintain my mental edge as well. Because
Okay.
the drop in energy is killer when all you do is coach people.
Yeah. You gotta have. You can't.
Coaches the body, I do mine.
You can't be. Yeah. You can't be lethargic.
Or just kind of, feel like you get
Yeah.
smashed.
Right.
Steve, I don't have anything too wild specific.
Okay.
More actually gonna more echo what I heard. What I'm mostly worried about is just maintaining a reasonable diet without feeling de-energized all day. Not just de-energized during my workouts, which has happened,
Yeah.
but like at work and weekends, just during the day, keep my energy level up while
Yeah.
not shoving 20 pounds of food down my throat.
Right.
How do you lose weight and be awake?
My name's Artie, and I think the biggest thing for me is figuring out how many calories and how many macros to start off with. I try to mimic the same percentages as someone else based off a pound or a gram of protein per pound of body weight. However, I sit at work, so when I do that, I feel like I'm eating too much food. So just getting a baseline to start with, and I'll work on the timing as I figure out what I need to do.
Yeah.
Big check mark for that too.
Sit all day.
Yeah. How do we start the process? How do we build it?
I'm Kim. I'm the world's worst eater. Ryan knows this. I think we've talked this week. I want to learn how to hopefully not be as sore, and apparently I need to work on protein. Usually, I'm the opposite. I'm a carbaholic. All I eat is carbs, and I avoid protein. So I guess I need to go the opposite.
I feel you on the sore.
Soreness. Yeah. Soreness. Soreness.
I'm Kathy, and I'm curious about intermittent fasting.
The IF.
Yeah, is that what you did? And working out too?
The IF.
What to eat for hormonal health?
Yeah. Hormones. You're following Lori, right?
Yeah.
She's the real deal on that stuff.
It'd be cool to have male components of this as well. Can you eat to help testosterone? I'll be 50.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
noticing a slight difference.
Right. I mean, and that's food is interconnected with everything. I mean, your gut biome and everything going on in there is interconnected. So, absolutely. All right, let's just start right at the top of where we were. So, and we can combine some things as we go through this list of different topics. These are good. This will cover pretty much the whole spectrum of things. So, let me start with this prescription. Okay, where are we going to start? If you're looking to start, it's protein. Okay, you've got to start at protein. You got your three macros are carbs, fats, and proteins. Okay, so I've got carbs, I've got fats, I've got protein. The only one of those that's actually essential, meaning you have to have in your diet to live, is protein. Okay, protein is the one. Yep.
I was going to take notes. Are you going to be posting this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I
Yeah,
don't need to take.
I'm gonna post it.
Perfect.
You're gonna have it. Yeah, good call. But there is going to be a test. You may want to take notes. So you got to have protein. It's in the essential macronutrient. So the easiest rule of thumb to start for macros is 1 gram per pound. Okay, for your body weight. Okay, so if I weigh 195 pounds, I should be taking in 195 grams of protein a day. That's a lot, right? Now, there is an exception. If I'm working with someone who is very overweight or has a lot of weight to lose, I've got a client, who's 350 pounds. I'm not going to make him eat 350 grams of protein. We're going to go more off of ideal target body weight or lean body weight than, right. Okay, so he's not going to need that much protein at that weight, because his lean body weight, we're going to be looking more at like 240 or something like that. So we can go off of that, but just to make it easy for most of us, we're thinking 1 gram per pound. Okay.
Is that target weight good for me as well, do you think, as opposed to?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. So you're going to pick, basically, let's pick a male who's 5'10". Let's say they're 200 pounds. I'm gonna start him, not knowing anything else about him. This is just kind of an avatar that we'll go through. I'm gonna start him at 200 grams of protein. Okay. Well, protein is 4 calories per gram. So is carbs. Anybody know what fats are? 9. All right, so
So do you weigh your food?
Yeah. Yeah, all my food is weighed and measured because, and there's a cool little infographic about that as far as like the tablespoon of peanut butter. When you dip it out of the jar, it's like, is that really 16 grams? Because if you dip a little deeper out of the jar, 16 grams might look a little smaller than you think it looks.
Hey, I noticed you always weigh your food in grams.
Yeah.
Do you do that just so it's a smaller measurement, so it's more accurate?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I weigh my chicken in ounces, everything else in grams, and it's just whatever I can find in MyFitnessPal usually. Okay. Now, here's the thing, and complicated in this because these are some calculations. I'm going to take that 5'10" male and I'm going to put his info into a calculator that calculates basal metabolic rate. What the hell is that? Well, that's how many calories he would burn at complete rest. If I put him in a dark chamber and had him sit there, he would still burn X number of calories. All right, and that's actually about 60 to 70% of his daily calories. That's why I hate the term when people think they need to work out to burn calories. Like, you're burning 60 to 70% of what you're eating if I just put you in a dark room and had you do this all day. Like, you don't need to burn off what you're eating, okay? Exercise is not punishment for the food that you're eating. So I'm going to find his basal metabolic rate, and then I'm going to see how active he is. Does he sit at a desk? Does he sit there all day in an office? Or is he a fireman? Does he work outside all day? That activity level, it's actually a multiplier, is going to determine what his calories say on paper. Okay, just as this is a basic example. So for this gentleman, let's say he's fairly active. He comes to CrossFit 3 days a week. He's got a desk job, but he's pretty active outside of the job, and like I said, he works out. So he's gonna have an activity factor of, like, I think it's 1.375. We multiply by the BMR, and we're gonna get a calorie number. Say it's 2,800. Okay, I kind of just backtracked there to get us back on where we need to be. Let's say it comes out and I know he needs to be eating 2,800 calories. All right, well, here we go. I set his protein, okay? So now I've got 2,000 calories left to play with between carbs and fats. So then I have to decide, well, what is his training modality? Is he an endurance runner? Does he do CrossFit 3 days a week, like I said? Does he not do anything? That's going to determine the split between carbs and fats, okay? CrossFitters need carbs. Why? Energy. We do highly glycolytic things. Yeah, very short bursts and different things. That is fueled directly by carbohydrate, okay? So if I've got a CrossFitter that, works out 3 to 5 days a week, and that's their only training modality, I might put them up at 45, 50% of calories in carbs. Okay? Yeah. We talked about Brent Fikowski and at the games. He's eating 700 grams of carbohydrates the week of the games because they're going through just complete and craziness, on that side of things. So. But let's say we decide, in this guy's case, he needs to have about 40% in carbs. What is that going to be? 800 calories. So there's 200 carbs there. Okay. And so then you build the rest in fat. Okay, 1,600. So there's 400 in fats. No, 1,200 in fats. So what's that? Somebody do the quick math for me. What's 1,200 divided by 9? I thought you had your calculator out for me.
I'm taking notes. Right.
133.33.
I don't do that. I'm typing.
So there's just a brief example, but the real answer is it depends. So I can go through that same thing for all 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 of you, and I can come up with different things based on lifestyle factors, based on your training modality, based on your goals. Do you want to go to the CrossFit Games, or do you want to look really good naked? Those goals don't go hand in hand. All right, we'll talk about the triangle of awareness and that sort of thing. So there's a lot that goes into a client prescription for carbs, fats, and protein, but this is the one that we can usually dial in pretty well first and kind of set in motion, and then play with this. All right. So if I've got someone who is looking to do really well in the open, or they've got a competition coming up, or they just want to crush the gym every day, they're going to be a little higher carb and a little bit lower fat. If I've got someone that is just wants to feel good and balance things, they're going to be a little more balanced between carbs and fat. Okay. The thing is that everybody wants it all. You know, everybody wants it all, and really, if you have to understand, we need to be chasing one of these things at a time. We've got health, we've got performance, that's that triangle of awareness, meaning I can only chase one of those ideas at a time. You want to get really shredded and look really good, you better not be complaining about your hang clean and your back squat going down. Okay? If you want to PR and do really well in the gym, well, guess what? You don't get PRs by having abs. Okay? They're different ideas and different things that you chase. Matt Frazier didn't get a gold medal at the CrossFit Games because he had the best abs. I guarantee that. Okay? And these bodybuilders that stand on stage, these physique competitors that go through all this hell of dieting to get on stage,
So not healthy.
super unhealthy, but they also didn't get there because they're super strong and can lift a lot of weight. All right, so it's all different. We got to decide, and that's why a true coaching model within this realm, it has to be periodized and adjusted based on the client and their goals. Okay, so I know I've shifted recently into going lower in carbs and a little bit higher in fats myself, just because my training intensity's gone down, some of my goals have changed, and that sort of thing. So it's hard to give a prescription on the spot to fit anybody, and that's the template thing we talked about. That's why templates, it's like, well, it doesn't take into account you, the person. All right. Let me erase these numbers because they stress me out. So nutrition outside of your window, we talked about the pre-workout window, the post-workout window. That was a big thing around the open and those workouts, just making sure folks were on the right track there. Basically, in that window, we want mostly carb and protein, okay? Pre-workout, post-workout. Carbs and proteins are priority. Fats we don't really want because they're slow digesting. They sit in the GI tract, okay? They also, because they're sitting there, are going to hinder the absorption of the other nutrients in the carbs and proteins, all right?
So is it better to consume it in liquid form then?
Better to consume. Not necessarily better. No, not necessarily. It really depends on the client and kind of what they've got going on. Like if they're a super high level a liquid, you know, like basically it's a highly branched cyclic dextrin carb powder post-workout just to get the recovery going. But for most of us, a simple meal of carbs and proteins is going to be fine.
Like chicken, sweet potato.
Exactly. I'm going to do a little Facebook Live. I got to make my chicken and sweet potato shake. I told the ladies I was going to do a chicken sweet potato blended shake and drink it. And I think I'm thinking it could be just amazing for me.
Yeah.
Because I love chicken and I love sweet potato.
Okay, so the oatmeal
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that mentally I'm ready for that.
So keep it simple, meaning subtract out what you've got left and divide it up. Okay, so you know a lot of your carbs are, and most of your carbs are going to be around pre-workout, post-workout, which means outside of that window is going to be more fats and proteins, right? So if you've got, if you work with budgets at all, you've got a daily budget, and you know a lot of that budget is going to be used up around the workout. All right, so the rest of the day, it depends on if you work out at night or in the morning, but the rest of the day outside of that window is going to be more fat heavy and with proteins and a little carbs as well. But I like you to kind of stack your carbs around your workouts, and that kind of knocks out your post-workout window is carb heavy and protein heavy post-workout. And I'll tell you, for most of my people, I want that meal to be your biggest of the day. Yeah.
How soon?
Within an hour. I mean, you don't need to have the microwave going while you're finishing your workout. It's not that crazy, but within an hour, and I'm looking, that needs to be your biggest meal, because what you're going to find, what happens if you don't? You know, because you work with me.
Oh, I created.
You crashed and hunger.
Oh, I was
Hunger.
yesterday.
Yeah. So that within that 1 hour, 90-minute window, let's hit a big carb and protein meal. You know, probably your biggest meal of the day. And again, it's going to change based on your workout. If I work out in the morning at 5:30 a.m., then breakfast is going to be the big meal. But if I work out in the evening, dinner's going to be that big, you know, so.
What about if it's really late, like, you know, you usually go to 7 o'clock, so
Yeah.
8:30 before I'm eating.
That's what I talked about with Sam when she was going through things, is you go ahead and hit it. That was old thought methodology about not eating late at night. That was old school stuff. And so really we're just worried about getting our numbers in and hitting it. And like Mike alluded to when he was saying, there's some research coming out that eating carbs later at night helps the sleep big time. So, yeah.
It's made a huge difference for me.
Definitely.
It's just crazy to sleep through the night.
Yeah.
For me, it's crazy. It's got to feel better.
You know, sustainability, you know, macros, carbs, fats, proteins, tracking macros is not a diet. It's not. Tracking macros is just a tool that we use. Okay, so I track macros, I weigh everything and track it so I can know what's going on. I can do that within paleo, within zone, within keto, within, poor Dr. Atkins. I can still track macros. And so macros is just a lifestyle approach. It's not a diet. But what I want you to ask yourself here is, if what I'm doing, can I do it for a year? If the answer is no, it's the wrong diet. If what you're doing you cannot do for a year, then it's the wrong diet for you, okay? A true diet phase, or a cut phase you would call it, really should only last 6 to 8 weeks at a time. Okay, you can't just diet forever. You can't be on a diet your whole life. There's so many things that happen on a diet, hormones, things that can down-regulate when you're in a calorie deficit, that you can't just do it for an extended period of time.
Isn't that the definition of diet, that it's calorically deficit the second you're above the calories?
Surplus. Well, I mean, I guess there's a double meaning there, because a diet means the foods that you eat. So my diet consists of, right? But yeah, a true cut phase diet in that sense would mean I'm at a calorie deficit. So there's no secret. That's how you lose weight. It's just, we can't just keep cutting and keep cutting and keep cutting, because what's going to happen is, let's say I cut down to 1,400 calories and I lost some weight. Okay, well, I went back up, I got off of Weight Watchers or whatever, gained some weight back, and then I get back on Weight Watchers. all of a sudden 1,400 calories, I'm not losing as much weight. I lose a little bit, it's a little slower this time. Gain it back, get back on, 1,400 calories. Your metabolism's smart, it's learning. It's learning how to survive. And so all of a sudden, you've got someone, I'll use my mom as an example. I don't know why I looked up, she's not dead, I'm going to see her after this. I do that.
But she's watching.
She's watching. She's watching. I'm actually having dinner with her tonight. So, up top. You know, that's how she can maintain her body weight at 1,300 calories, which is a starvation diet, by the way. And she cannot lose weight. She can maintain body weight at 1,300 calories. That's not good. That's bad. Okay? So what do? We've got to build her metabolism up. We've got to grow your metabolism. So then you can diet and lose weight without feeling like you're starving or deprived. That's the big thing with that. And that word periodize, it's periodized in segments. You know, we might have a 6-week cut phase and then we balance out for 4 weeks. Might have another 6-week cut phase and it goes. Because remember, this is that whole thing about progress, and really you can use this for anything. It's not linear. You know, it's not going to be, if this is your weight here on a diet, it's not going to necessarily look like that going downward. Okay, it might travel along and it might go up and then it might go down and then it might go up and then it might go down. Okay, but look at that. That's the full trend is still what we're looking for overall. Okay. Timing, we talked about pre-workout, post-workout timing thing. I'm actually going to steer you a little bit away from it at first because it's not a huge deal. Okay, it's not a huge deal, food timing. More and more research is coming out saying it's really just about getting your food in and hitting calories and making sure you eat enough food. So the hierarchy that we use, or that I use, goes like this in terms of importance. Calories, that whole energy balance thing. I know it's a little bit of a touch and go with me in CrossFit right now with that, because they're super against the whole energy balance thing, but it kind of is calories in versus calories out in the most part. Next is macros, which is your carbs, your fats, your proteins, what's going on there. So let's say your calories are good, but you're only eating 50 grams of protein. Problem. Got it. Next is micros. All right, that's your minerals. A lot of us are actually not eating enough salt. Pink salt, by the way. Himalayan pink salt. A lot of us, if we're eating clean and trying to eat healthy, and we're not eating a lot of processed foods, a lot of times we're not getting enough sodium in our diets. So, yeah.
I saw something that scared me to death about salt the other day. Be real careful where you get your salt from, because if it's current sea salt being off a beach, all the plastics have been breaking down, and there's microscopic plastic particles in all fresh sea salt.
Oof.
From the body wash and stuff too.
Just from,
Yeah.
it's just horrific.
Really?
Horrific. So you got to think about, because that salt's really important.
Yeah.
If you're getting Himalayan stuff, you're okay because it's coming out of block salt.
Right.
So
That's good.
in my house, we're going with block salt.
Block salt, man.
Right? So if it came out of the ground, cool. If it came off a beach, it's some radiation in there too. Yeah, well, it's got to be the land.
Timing is number 4.
I'm sorry, micros is.
That's going to be minerals. Think about magnesium, zinc, your vitamins, that sort of stuff. Those are your micronutrients. Okay. Timing is number 4 on the list. Food timing, and then supplements. I guess that would fall more into the your protein powders and that sort of thing. Things you supplement your diet with. So if you're worried about when you eat a certain meal, or if you've got the best whey protein powder, but you don't know what your calories and macros are, you're putting the cart before the horse. All right. So we need to really dial in, 1 and 2 and make sure that's there. And then as we get into it, we dial in, timing, which, for someone like you, your question with yeah, we need to take care of that pretty quick, because it's just, you're getting smoked. Yeah, we need to, and same with Kim, we need to get her some protein after a workout because we're having a lot of soreness and things like that. So, that can be something we definitely knock out. I would say for the balanced approach, carbs, fats, proteins, you're going to be in a much more balanced arena of not going super high on carbs, not going super high on fats. And throughout the day, it's just balancing your meals, okay, which is great. The zone diet is so good for that. The zone is where each meal basically has 40% carbs, 30% fats, 30% protein. And if you balance every meal in that 40-30-30 split, ideally you're going to come up with a pretty decent split throughout the day. Okay, so that's why I like putting together meals that are super simple. It makes it so easy. I've got a piece of chicken, I've got a sweet potato, I've got a tablespoon of olive oil. Boom, there's my carb, my fat, my protein right there. And I think people, a lot of times they err on one side or another and they end up, eating 50 grams of protein in a day. Then we got a problem. So balancing is probably going to be the name of the game for you if you're not super concerned with performance and that sort of thing. Sure. Yeah. Let's talk about a couple of those diets like intermittent fasting. What's the deal with that?
I have a friend who's like totally into it, and he's always talking about it. And I'm like, and then Jocko Willink is really big into that stuff. I mean, can you still exercise effectively?
It's tough. There are some folks that have success working out fasted, especially think of if you work out at 5:30 in the morning. Generally you're getting up, you're coming to the gym you might have some coffee or something. And you're about 12 hours fasted or so depending on when you had dinner. And most of the time if you've gotten used to that, it's just your thing and it's not a big deal. I wouldn't necessarily recommend working out after a 24-hour fast. You wouldn't want to come off of a 24-hour and go into the gym and expect to crush life. So
They would be crushing.
yeah. But intermittent fasting, let's talk about why do all these diets actually work? They all work, the zone, the paleo, the Weight Watchers, the Mediterranean, the Atkins, intermittent fasting. I'm forgetting a lot of them. South Beach. Why do they all work?
They're changed from your normal pattern.
In what way?
Less calories.
Boom. They all are cutting calories. So intermittent fasting, people are going crazy about it right now. It's getting to be a hot thing because you only eat inside a certain window, right? So it's like you'll basically go from, let's say 10 p.m. the night before to 2 p.m. the next day. So what is that? 10, 11, 12, is that 16 hours? Okay? And so then your window of eating is from there you go, good math, 2 to 10. So you got an 8-hour eating window, a 16-hour fasting window. That would be intermittent fasting. The likelihood that you're going to eat less calories from 2 to 10 is fairly high. Okay? Although I found I'm pretty damn hungry. Once I break it and I start eating right here, it's on for me. So I don't know, I'm pretty hungry, but because I've tried a couple 24-hour fasts like that. But people that are doing it for the majority from that 2 to 10 window, one, their stress levels go down because they don't have to worry about what they're eating during that window. They get to eat more and be happy about it. But generally they're going to come in a calorie deficit or less, and they end up losing weight, and then they rave about intermittent fasting and how great it is. Same people with Weight Watchers and paleo and all these different things. They all work in a way, okay? But I think our goal goes back to what's balanced or what's sustainable long term. Should be able to do it long term. Okay, and that kind of goes back to intuitive eating and knowing what your body needs. And you really don't know what your body needs unless you've tracked and measured and weighed and figured that out. And then you have that knowledge to be able to make it happen. So, yeah, you know, hormones, super intense exercise or a poor diet will wreck your hormones. And I'll raise my hand as guilty. I'm wrecked. I've been, you know, going super hard for 4 years in CrossFit, always in that mindset of more is better, more is better. I got to go harder, I got to do more, I got to work out 6 days a week, twice a day. I was doing 12 sessions a week, 12 workouts a week, laying on the floor in puddles. Hormones shot, you know, and that same thing can happen with a diet that's not up to par. Generally, I look at the fats. And unfortunately, because of the SnackWell's deal we talked about earlier, I've got a lot of, it usually is mostly women who are coming in at 20 grams, 30 grams of fat a day. And it's like, yeah, I wonder why you're having issues and, you know, you're having to go see the endo and that sort of thing. It's usually the fats are driving the hormones there. Thyroid shutting down, you know, just not getting enough. So, you know, 30, 40, even 50 grams of fat is just not enough to make things happen, okay? So that's my big thing I look for on hormones, but it can also go the other way with exercise. You know, we gotta have a balanced exercise approach, and that's why, you know, you haven't really heard me tell anybody recently that they need to work out 6 days a week to get results. You know, it needs to be a balanced approach. Maybe you do CrossFit 3 days a week, then you have a jog one day and you do yoga one day and that sort of thing. That's a nice balanced approach, lifestyle training approach that's sustainable. So obviously as a CrossFitter, I'm not a fan, okay? It's got some great application and some research behind it on some different things. The only people I would put on keto and low carb would be the diseased and sedentary. Okay, the people that don't exercise at all, or they have some sort of disease issue going on. Kind of like we mentioned before, if you're moving, you're exercising, you're doing movements, you're doing functional movements, you're doing CrossFit, that sort of thing, what's that fueled by? Carbs.
Sisson,
Heard the name.
our Daily Apple, he's the primal guy.
Yeah.
He has gone all in on keto.
Really?
All in. And but he does it at a higher kind of cyclical approach.
Yeah.
He has said, like, if you're doing high intensity exercise like HIIT or CrossFit, that you need to look at carbs. But mostly what he seems to be focusing on is long endurance.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. And so the keto thing, some people will get it confused with just low carb, that's probably, I shouldn't have even put the slash there, because, you know, ketogenic diets doesn't just mean you're low carb or that sort of thing. Like, you actually are in ketosis on this diet here, and your body's producing ketones. Whereas this is just you're not actually in ketosis. So, and that's just an approach that here, the whole Atkins thing, I got to see my parents go through it. What are you going to feel? No energy, mood, hangry. It's like, oh. But guess what? You lose weight. Why? Calories. Less calories. So it works, right? It works. They all work. But the thing with the carbs that we do have to keep in mind, based on your goals, what are your goals for exercise and nutrition? You know, there is going to be some inflammation that comes with carbohydrates. You know, when you put a bunch of carbs or you put carbs in your body, you're going to increase your glycogen stores. You're going to hold more water weight, that sort of thing. So there is some inflammation involved with consuming carbohydrates. That's why if you've ever, you know, if you've tried this or are thinking about trying it, you actually end up feeling pretty decent. It lets your gut calm down a little bit. It lets inflammation go down during that 16-hour window when you're fasting. there's also some stuff coming out about, you know, your creativity and you're most creative when you're in a fasted state, right? And that's why, you know, a lot of what I'm getting into is, you know, getting up in the morning and doing my most important things, you know, before I've even had breakfast, and, you know, knocking out my number one thing for the day, whether it's writing or journaling or creating content in a fasted state, because there's some stuff going on about that. So, what other questions do you guys have? I think we got through soreness. The soreness is the protein thing, okay? And so we need to, well, one is it's the post-workout window, creating that post-workout meal. Keep it simple: chicken, rice, sweet potato, no added fats, carbs and proteins are in there, and making sure we're getting the right amount of protein in our day.
I haven't been good enough afterwards.
I'm having clients come to me that are literally eating 70 grams of protein in a day, and they don't even realize it until I make them track their macros, and it adds up to like 70, and it's like, all right, we need you at 180. Okay. Now that goes back to a good point with the guy that I raced, and that example is you don't just want to start eating that amount. Okay. Like I'm not just going to take somebody from 70 to 180 tomorrow because that's what my calculator said or whatever. That's not a good idea. We bump slowly. We might have some gut issues if we go too fast. So we bump slowly and work them up. The same thing applies, and we were talking on the template thing. If that guy came out to 2,800, well, what happens if he's only eating 1,750 right now? I can't just say, all right, here's your diet, 2,800, have fun. Right, I mean, that's just a mess. So you've got to work with someone in this situation and build them up to that number, okay?
You use MyFitnessPal, is that what you use?
Yeah, that's what we use to track, yeah. But you can do your own calculations to see what you should be eating. But it's tough to see. It's tough to look at because, you know, I've got somebody who'll come to me who's 40 pounds overweight, and, you know, their calculations come out to be that they should be eating 3,200 calories a day, and they come to me and they show me their food logs for 5 days, and they're eating 1,800. Well, now we've got a problem. Everything, their metabolism or their physiology says they should be eating 3,200 calories to maintain weight, but they're eating 1,800 calories and they're 40 pounds overweight. What the hell are we going to do? Slowly build them up. It's a big thing that I'm working with a lot of folks on is reverse. It's called a reverse diet.
That's a massive mindset shift.
It's a huge. Yeah,
It's huge.
and that's why a lot of the coaching being done is mindset and psychological. It's a mental shift.
For new people that are joining up, do you all still recommend the Whole30 for someone first coming in here, or does that just go back to goals or?
Yeah, it goes back to goals. The Whole30 is not a bad idea because it sets some good habits in place for, you know, eating healthy foods and you know, making better choices overall. But it's not something I necessarily require. In the beginning, I'm just more worried about building good habits and getting used to hitting certain targets on calories and macros. But the coolest thing can happen with this sort of example is there's actually 3 things that can happen. Number one, the really cool thing is when you start to build them up and they lose weight, and then I look really good, and I look like I'm like, oh yeah, Ryan knows what he's doing. The second thing is you build them up and they maintain weight. That's still good because now you're at the same weight you were, you're happier, you're eating more food, and you're not gaining weight. And you're like, well, this is cool. The third thing that can happen is that you will put on a little bit of weight as you do the reverse diet. And that's why we don't bump you up too fast. We make little jumps up the chain. But there is a chance that you may put on 5 pounds of body fat during the reverse diet. but then we've built a metabolism that's around that, and then we take them slowly back down. And so now, this is the cool part, I might be able to diet that person on 2,600 calories and have them lose weight and achieve goals. And they're going to be a much happier person at 2,600 calories dieting than they would have been if I had just taken the 1,800 and said, all right, here you go, have fun, 1,300 a day, let's do it.
There's a lot of that out there, man.
Well, it's my mom's doing it right now. So in a way, I failed with her just because I couldn't get through to her, and you know she wanted the 10 pounds off before summer, or 15 pounds off before it gets hot out, and she went to Jenny Craig, and she's literally, they don't make any bones about it, it's a 1,200 calorie diet. They hand it to you. Here it is, 1,200.
And I was gonna ask, she doesn't listen to you, because my parents don't. My dad's like sugar-free, fat-free, everything, and you know, he works out a lot too, and I just hate that, because sugar-free is like even.
Yeah, the parent thing is hard to listen.
Yeah.
The parent thing is hard to deal with, and so, but the biggest thing is this right here. To wrap your mind around that is pretty hard. It's pretty hard to do, to trust the process and to go through that. And you know, Jason Phillips, who's a nutrition coach that you know I follow and look up to, he had to reverse diet a lady for a year.
If you went from 1,800 to 3,200, you would put on so much fat it wouldn't be funny.
Yeah, I mean you would see a lot of, you know, and he had to reverse diet her for a year, and she gained like 10 pounds, but she stuck with it. She stuck with it. They repaired all that damage. You can't expect to, you know, do this to your body over 20 years and then undo it just like that. So, you know, it took time, that reverse process. And
Yeah, that's the other thing I'm looking for. Is I'm looking to have more resilience.
yeah,
You know? I can't make massive changes really quickly and
Right.
like I used to,
yeah,
because I just crater so fast.
yeah. What other questions you guys have?
Well, we're looking at what carbs you're using. Is there any value in looking at the glycemic index?
You know, I'm not big on the glycemic index. Some people swear by it. Because I think if you looked at aren't sweet potatoes high glycemic?
Not as bad as potatoes.
Regular potatoes, yeah. So, and it's one of those things that it's like I'm not real big on it. I'm looking more at sugars. You know, I'm trying to keep sugars because obviously that's going to be at the top of the list. So, I'm looking at, you know, cutting out sugary foods and processed foods in that way. But in terms of looking at the actual glycemic index number of a food, I'm not real huge on it.
So do you ever have blow it out days where you just go crazy?
You know, I think it's important to have your diet or your lifestyle built into your diet. So having non-negotiables. We want to have a date night every Friday. Okay, let's build it into the approach. I don't necessarily agree with having like a cheat day, for example. How about a cheat meal or maybe a couple different things that you've built in? But the blowouts are tough just because for me and what I experienced doing it is it deepened my poor relationship with food. I started craving it, and I would look forward to that every Thursday night. I could go get the Domino's pizza, and I'd like sneak it and like get it home by myself, and it's like I'd devour it. And
When your buddy owns Old Salem Brewing.
right, it's yeah, I feel like that tends to lead down a tough path, but I love the idea of having non-negotiables.
Alcohol for me is a trigger food.
Yeah,
If I drink anything,
yeah.
I just eat.
But maybe you plug it into your diet. I'm going to have that glass of wine every Friday night with dinner, or every one. Yeah, right. And make it, you know, so that way it's sustainable. Because again, going back to, you got to be able to do this for long term. If alcohol is part of my life, and it's going to be part of my life, especially if I'm in a social setting, that sort of thing, it's got to be built into my plan. I can't just cut alcohol for 6 weeks and then be like, oh, all right, here we go, back on alcohol. Well, guess what's going to happen?
I'll say it, I've been sleeping better
Yeah, without
alcohol.
yeah,
Red wine, you know, like you gotta
Yeah.
How do you count like a glass of wine?
So here's the way I do it with all my folks to make it super easy on alcohol is for every drink, no matter if it's a glass of wine, a shot of liquor, or 12-ounce beer, 29 carbs. It's just the number. It's just the number. Or 10 grams of fat. Your choice. Most people choose the carb option though because they've got more carbs to play with than fats. So 29 grams of carbs. You just find an entry in MyFitnessPal that's got that, or you create one, or you just leave out 29 carbs from your daily numbers and just make that consistent across the board. The problem with alcohol is it's 7 calories per gram. It's a different macro altogether. When it goes in the system, it slows down the absorption of all your other nutrients. So it's actually a myth. I really don't want you eating with your alcohol. I'd rather have you not eating if you're going to drink, because what happens is when it goes through the liver, it shuts everything else down to process the alcohol.
It just makes me hungry.
I think, and probably my big thing especially with the beer, was the gluten, the type of, yeah, I think that was.
I tried an enzyme, by the way.
You can't do
That's all bullshit.
Yeah.
If you're gluten intolerant, those enzymes don't work.
Yeah. So.
Quite a few beers.
That's different.
He went out and tested it. He had a whole bunch of beers. I'm like, you think maybe you should have just had
Hey.
one? Try it first.
My friends own Old Salem
He had
Brewing.
like 5 or 6.
I mean, it almost got to the point where I would get headaches while I was drinking, and so that's kind of a telltale sign that there's something going on with the gluten or the.
So can you not tolerate gluten yourself?
I'm starting to think that I'm better without it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, once you, we have a severely autistic child, so we went on like a gluten-free thing to see if it would help him, and it ruined my life because now I can't eat wheat. But literally, it's like my resistance that I built up as a child. There's a lot of speculation that like colic and stuff like that comes
Yeah.
from when you start giving kids wheat. You know, it made it really easy to do low carb because I'm like, oh, freaking can't eat anything else.
Right.
But you know, the thing with Ryan, with the real encouragement, is I brought back in white rice, brought it back in sweet potato. That's just, man, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I feel so much better.
Yep. Absolutely.
So my hack for alcohol, because I get, you know, I do a lot of business stuff, is I get club soda with a couple of limes, and you know,
Yep.
you feel like a semi-adult.
Yeah, you get to hold it, and
Yeah.
you can put your pinky out, and
I'm hydrating while my friends are not.
yeah.
You know?